Everyone, thank you for being with us today. We are ALS Family of Faith, and today I am so thankful to introduce Molly Sunborn to you. She is a speaker, author of Cheeseballs for Jesus, and the co-founder of Whatever You Do Ministries with her husband Craig, where they encourage teens, families, and couples across the country. With a master's degree in marriage and family therapy and a powerful perspective shaped by surviving open heart surgery, Molly brings humor, faith, and real life hope to every conversation. When she's not speaking or homeschooling, you will probably find her at the Ninja Gym training alongside her kids. Oh my goodness, Molly, thank you so much for just joining us today. As someone who has followed you throughout your journey, it is just such an honor to get to see you here in person, online, and get to hear more about your story and the in-depths of your open heart surgeries. But before we get to more of your open heart surgery, I would love to hear about Cheeseballs for Jesus, because I feel like this has just grown and gotten you through so many parts of your journey.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me on. We've already had so much fun talking ahead of time before it was recording. I like these ladies. So, okay, we got to go way back. So, I was single. I was in my 20s. It was 2008. I was speaking at a youth event in the state of Virginia, and someone gave me a giant container of cheese balls that I had to bring back to Minnesota where I lived. Okay, so for those who are listening and not seeing, it's just that big, huge container that you often get at Sam's Club. I am showing right now the dispenser that came to be and the backpack, but that was not originally what, I was just carrying cheese balls through the airport. I had to put them through security. They got stalled in the x-ray machine. I mean, I was just getting them from point A to point B, minding my own business. Really, here's the reason, ladies, because my sister, who had 4 young kids at the time, had recently said, hey, keep your eye out for a toy storage container for like Legos and stuff. So when someone had offered the cheese balls, I didn't really want the cheese balls, but I thought I'm going to bring the container back to Minnesota to my sister. So it was literally just trying to get them back home. And as I'm walking through the airport, everyone's staring at me, laughing and smiling. I realize it's because I have the cheese balls. They get stopped in the x-ray machine. Security guards surround them as they come out, and they're like, I thought they were going to take them. I'm thinking, you can't bring like this many snacks on the plane. I'd never tried before. But no, they let me take them through. They were just laughing and smiling, cracking cheesy jokes. Then I get on the plane and I'm sitting in my seat holding the cheese balls, minding my own business because, I had other stuff to put in the overhead and under my seat. And over the intercom for the entire airplane to hear, the flight attendant says, ladies and gentlemen, if any of you are hungry, there's a cheese ball lady with snacks in seat 9D. He announces me and my seat, and he does it like 2 more times on the flight, and everyone's laughing and smiling. It's the conversation starter, the icebreaker. I did nothing to make it happen. And then this is where I took a turn where I know this is like the cheesiest of all missions from God, but I believe he orchestrated it. The people on either side of me, because I was in the middle, started talking to me because of the announcement and the cheese balls, and it just broke the ice. And they said, why do you have cheese balls? And I said, I was just speaking at a youth event and someone gave them to me. And then they said, what were you speaking on? And I summed it up with one word: Jesus. And so it was like from cheese balls to Jesus in 10 seconds. Literally turned into a spiritual conversation. I got to encourage my seatmates. Then in my connecting flight in Chicago, I'm like way on the other side of the airport, but I still have my cheese balls. And people are recognizing me as the lady from their flight, calling me cheese ball girl, cheese ball chick, whatever. And then at my next flight, I connect because of the cheese balls. Like, I did not start the conversation. A young woman in her 20s as well started talking to me because of the cheese balls. It led to a spiritual conversation. She admits to me that she'd not been going to church for a while, wanted to get back into growing in her faith, asked if I had any recommendations. I invited her to mine back in Minneapolis, and she came. I'm like, what on earth? This is so crazy. So I told my friends over dinner, like, how God used cheese balls to make everyone laugh and smile and bring the world together. And one of my friends said, you should carry cheese balls around and see how God uses it. And I was like, okay, that's a little weird. Like, it was fun in the airport, but these are like big and awkward. Like, what am I supposed to do? Just like go up to people and be like, you want to eat my cheese balls? That's kind of weird. Not that what I do isn't weird, right? Wearing them on my back with the dispenser.
No.
So, but it was like initially just kind of a fun, silly little dare, it felt like. And so I created a duct tape backpack, strapped them on my back, wore them to a mall near my apartment with my friend Katie. And I learned very quickly there's a fine line between being creepy and unique. Okay, so you don't go up to people and be like, eat my snacks. Like, no. I just wear them here. I'll show you guys. You just wear them like a backpack. Okay, there we go. And here I am walking along, and like people come to you when you wear snacks on your back. So, and then it just starts conversations. And like, so this is kind of how it would go. People would say, "Why do you have cheese balls?" And I say, "Just to make you smile and spread joy." And then I see where the conversation goes. It's not always a spiritual conversation. I don't always drop the name of Jesus, but I try to listen to the Holy Spirit and kind of gauge people's like openness to faith stuff. And sometimes I pray with people. Sometimes I encourage people. Actually, it leads to like continued relationship. That first time in the mall, I ended up meeting a group of teenagers and ended up mentoring one of the young ladies who was going through some hard stuff. And it started with cheese balls. Okay, so that day at the mall, I did offer cheese balls to people, and some people did, we open the top and they stick their hands in, but not a lot of people wanted to eat from, right? I know, look at your face, like, that's gross. Like, for me. And this was pre-COVID, so I was like way ahead of the times. So anyways, with the help of my brother Andy and Home Depot Jim, who is still a friend nearly 20 years later, I invented with the guys a sanitary dispensing system. Whoa, that was three.
Oh my gosh.
Where the lid doesn't have to come open and you can get cheese balls germ free every time. And so you guys, I started wearing cheese balls in 2008. I never dreamed that it would become what it is. Like, it's my handle on social media, Cheeseball Chick. I wrote a book, yes, Cheeseballs for Jesus, funny faith-filled stories to encourage and inspire. The first chapter is the whole Cheeseball story. Every chapter after is just different God stories from my life. But I wore them on my first date with my husband a month later. And yeah, it's been a part of our relationship ever since. They made an appearance at the hospital when our first daughter was born. Med students were coming to my room to eat the cheese balls. They were on the TV show Wipeout. I was a contestant as Cheeseball Molly. And they've been almost to all 50 states, I think 9 countries. And I am just blown away by how God will use anything. And so you mentioned Whatever You Do Ministries. My husband and I felt called within the last year, actually, it's super, super new, to go into full-time ministry together. He's always been a youth pastor, but we felt God calling him to leave formal church ministry and a regular paycheck and salaries and benefits, all in the middle of my open heart surgery journey. I mean, it was like, this is God's MO, right? Like, trust me. It was crazy. And so just in the last few months, we've launched Whatever You Do Ministries. And the heart behind it is that God will use anything. And I think he chose to use cheese balls like almost 20 years ago to just prove like whatever you offer to me, whether that's a gift, a talent, a passion, an illness, like I've learned through this open heart surgery journey that like my pain has a purpose. Combined with cheese balls, it ends up being really fun. So anyways, Whatever You Do Ministries and the whole cheese ball mission is based on 1 Corinthians 10:31. Whether you eat or drink, that's appropriate, right? Eat cheese balls. Yeah. Whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. And so that sort of sums up the cheese ball story.
My goodness. That is like, okay, once again, I have followed you throughout your open heart surgery, but I've gone back on like your earlier videos and it is just the best. Like, I wish that I could meet Molly Cheeseball Chick out in the wild and and receive cheese balls and have these amazing conversations with you. I can only imagine those that have gotten to meet you throughout all of your cheese ball journeys. But we are here, obviously, medical journeys. We know that God works in mysterious and all ways. And like you said, there is purpose for pain sometimes, and that you have been able to find that throughout your journey with open heart surgery. I am going to tie in the cheese balls into this
Oh
question as
yeah,
well because
definitely.
once again, I've seen your nurses receiving your cheese balls in the conversations that you've been able to have with your surgeons, your doctors, your nurses. How has this gotten you through your open heart surgery? I kind of want to go through like your journey. I know that this has been since childhood, your congenital heart disease, but open heart surgery wasn't always
No.
on the table. So, kind of backtrack for us and share how you went from congenital heart disease to needing open heart surgery and that journey.
Yeah, sure. So, I don't know, a year or two into my life, a doctor discovered a murmur just during a regular checkup. And so then I got an echocardiogram and they discovered that I had a bicuspid, so two cusps on my aortic valve instead of three. And so basically what that means is for my life, and anyone who has that, that your aortic valve is going to be the two flaps are going to be doing the work that three should be doing, and then that over time can create leakage. It can lead to other complications. And so they just watched me every year. I'd go to the cardiologist. I called it the heart doctor. My mom and I always had a special date after we went to a, I was like asking her the other day, wasn't there, it was like a name, like French, like pollo chicken or I don't know. Anyway, something with chicken.
Pollo
No, but that's
loco.
Spanish, right?
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Okay. But so growing up, I was an athlete. I was always active, never stopped moving, volleyball, basketball, softball throughout middle school and high school, and never felt like I had any problems. But they'd check me every year and ask me the questions. Are you out of breath? Are you, do you feel tired? Blah, blah, blah. And I had some incidents I write about in my book. There's a whole chapter called Open Heart Surgery with a question mark. And I never really felt any real things. I fainted a time or two, but we don't think it was connected to my heart. I fainted once when I was getting a haircut in my 20s, but it's because the lady made me stand up the whole time and my knees buckled. But
Oh,
so basically when I got into my 20s and off my parents' insurance and like living life, to the fullest, becoming the cheeseball chick, traveling around speaking, I kind of forgot that I had a heart condition, honestly. And my parents are wonderful, but like they're not micromanaging my life as an adult. So I think they probably assumed I was seeing the cardiologist, but I wasn't. And so God came through in a really miraculous way when I got pregnant at age 30 with our first daughter, our one daughter, first child. And I was going to deliver in a small town hospital where my husband was a youth pastor in that town. Thought I'd go all natural. Like, I don't know what I was thinking, but like, had I gone that route, I probably would have died during childbirth. But in God's goodness, He allowed me to have a cyst on my ovary that really turned out to be nothing, but it got me to a bigger hospital. And at that hospital, they asked more thorough questions. And then they said, wow, we really should check your heart condition. They did. They found out not only was the valve condition progressed, but it had created an aneurysm, which is basically like a ticking time bomb. It's the thing that people just can all of a sudden die from and not know they have. So I went from thinking I'd have an all natural birth in a small town hospital, maybe even at home, to actually having a scheduled C-section at the University of Minnesota, which is now close to home, but at the time it was 2 hours away. So we picked our daughter's birthday, and it went well, but they then had to watch me every 6 months for quite a while. I was able to have another child, still high risk. Again, we picked his birthday a year and a half later. I mean, within, a time frame.
yes.
And then they just watched me ever since. But every time I go to the cardiologist, they'd say, do you feel like, do you feel these symptoms? And I'd always say no. And so I was never really thought about open heart surgery until about a year and a half ago. One of my appointments, they said, I think it might be time, Molly. You're really going to start feeling things. And so that brings us to May 27th, this last year, 2025, where I did have open heart surgery at Mayo Clinic. 3-month recovery process. I thought I was counting down the days till I could hang from the bars and swing and do ninja with my kids again. I compete in the 40 plus female category. We're called the Masters. I actually did a ninja competition 2 days before my surgery and got first place.
My gosh.
But my surgeon found out, he's like, I'm just glad you didn't hurt yourself. So, and he's my biggest fan. He says he's going to come watch when I can compete again. But then I ended up having two more unexpected surgeries because the top of my sternum didn't fuse. So I have 5 plates and 40 screws added in here September. 3 weeks after that surgery, I cleared my throat and felt a pop. And then I had to go back in October 13th and have another surgery. I mean, it was a long process, and I'm still recovering and healing, still have some restrictions, but we do believe now finally that the top is fused, but I still have to be careful. And so that's the whole open heart surgery journey. But through it all, every appointment I've ever gone to, I have felt the Lord ask me like to bring the cheese balls. I'm like,
Oh my word.
so I truly, ladies, I know, like you could look at me and think, oh, she's an introvert. She loves the attention. No, let me tell you, it's easier not to bring the cheese balls. Like I'm a busy mom. We're doing full-time ministry. But every single time that I obey God, something crazy happens. I get to encourage a stranger in the waiting room or a nurse or a surgeon or pray for someone, or it just reminds me that in my pain and these trials that there is a greater purpose. Like I am there for a reason. I think it was, I don't know, toward the end of the summer leading into my second surgery where I just had this epiphany. Like, I know it sounds weird, and I don't always feel this way. There's definitely days where I cried my eyes out and begged God to not have me go through another surgery. But I got to the point where I felt like it was a bit of a privilege. Like God was entrusting me with this journey to encourage others and bring him glory. And oh my goodness, he has just done it to the greatest degree. The third surgery, so many amazing things happened, like many miracles. I got to pray in the OR over all the team. I prayed and prayed and prayed that they wouldn't have to completely cut my sternum open again because that was the plan, to re-break everything and then put it back together. Um, and my surgeon was quite certain they were going to have to do that. And I wake up from surgery. There's a video online so people can scroll back and
Yes.
see this. He's holding my hand. Did you see me? I'm like crying.
Yes.
And he tells me that he believes the prayers benefited the surgery. They did not have to re-break my sternum. It was like, it was a miracle, really. I mean, they had to add longer plates and screws and
Yeah.
change some things, but, and then that morning is when I met Nurse Jen. She wasn't even my nurse. She comes in and she hears there's cheese balls and she just wanted to have some fun. It turned into the most beautiful conversation connecting with her and two other nurses that I'm still friends with. We text, I send pictures, I visit them at Mayo when I go for my appointments. And that turned into a 5 million views viral video and I ended up on K-Love Radio because of it. Like, and people from around the world are messaging me, like you, saying they're watching all my videos, they're going way back, hours and hours, and they're just telling me how it's bringing them encouragement, drawing them closer to God. And so I would go through it again because I don't want to, Lord, please, I'd like to be done, but he uses it. He will use anything we offer up to him. And so, yeah, that sort of sums it up.
Yeah, obviously I feel like this has a special place in my heart, being that I am a mom to a congenital heart disease warrior. We've gone through so many open heart surgeries with my son, and after watching your videos, I can tell you that you've been an inspiration to me of like, how can we enter these rooms not in fear, but more in, okay, God is using us in this journey, and what are you going to lead us into? And it's really allowed me to stop and say, okay, what conversations can I maybe have with others? And I know being in the pediatric CVICU, like walking around those rooms and just praying over those babies, because I can't tell you, there were 5 kids at Phoenix Children's Hospital that they were foster. They didn't have
Oh,
parents
wow.
there. They had little signs for volunteers that said, if you want to come sit with me, I can use company. And so I was just praying over those babies and every room that I walked past, but it's been huge to follow your journey and to really get to watch you shine in God's love and and be able to take Cheeseballs and share God's love for people and for you, and that even in a very difficult journey of the unknown, because unfortunately you can walk into open heart surgery
Mm-hmm.
and you may not come out healthy.
Right.
I mean, honestly, I have experienced friends that haven't gotten to bring children home
Yeah.
after open heart surgery. We've witnessed, within the congenital heart disease world, that they go in for a regular procedure and they don't get to go home. And so, in that uncertainty and so many unknowns that come with open heart surgery, I guess my last question would be more along the lines of, for anyone that is walking along a journey of uncertainty, what encouragement would you have for them, to just see the positive and know that they're not alone in this?
Man, yeah. So many things are firing in my head. God help me stay the course and know, because I've learned so much myself. Like, I am not an expert, but this is all just like, trial through fire. Is that how you say it? Like, just being refined. Well, the phrase that keeps coming to my mind that I actually have been able to share with an entire retreat of teenagers, 600 teenagers, after my last surgery. 3 weeks later, I was scheduled to speak at a youth retreat, and we didn't know if I should do it. I actually had to wear my sternal vest to like protect me, and I did it, and it was amazing. And the phrase we kept saying over and over again, and that I say from stage, is, if you have a pulse, you have a purpose. And so, no matter what your condition of life is, or whatever has been spoken over you, or your prognosis or diagnosis, you are here for a reason. And so, I just needed to keep remembering that every breath is a gift, because you're exactly right, Tanya. Like, I was not promised that I would wake up. My heart was stopped for 3 hours. Like, I was on a bypass machine. What if it didn't start up? And then the complications with the sternum not healing, I think, helped me realize just how delicate life is, And so I would encourage anyone walking through any tough thing, whether it's medical or not, or with a loved one, to ask God to remind you daily that you are here for a reason, and to ask him to show you his purpose. Because I would say one of the ways that I got through all the ups and downs is honestly taking my eyes off of myself and my condition and how I wish things were different, or healing was faster and uncomplicated, to look out, like to look up to God, and then look out to others and ask, what is my mission today? Who can I encourage? And sometimes the encouragement that I brought was through just being real with people and crying and saying, this is really hard, but my hope is in the Lord. And I think to remember, which I know you guys, you believe this with all your heart, and it's why you do what you do. This world is not our home, right? We're just passing through do you guys know that old song? I love it. This world is not my home, I'm just a passing through. Come on, clap. My treasures are laid up
Yes,
beyond the blue. The
I
angels
love it.
bring me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. Okay, that was awkward.
I love
By the way,
it.
look at my mic hasn't been plugged in this whole time. So can you hear me?
Again.
Sorry, this whole time my mic was not plugged in because, okay, it's a wrap. I just wanted to sing the whole time. I promise that wasn't planned. But no, really, like, if this world is all we have, that really stinks.
Yeah.
Life is hard. Jesus says in John 16:33, in this world you will have trouble, right? He tells us, like, thanks, Jesus, that's encouraging.
Yeah.
But then he says, but take heart, I've overcome the world. And the verses before that, he talks about the peace that he brings. And so, okay, one more thing that I thought of,
Yes.
that in addition to just remembering that you have a purpose, it's not a mistake, that this world is not our home, and that God will use you to point other people to him, no matter how much time you have on this earth. But one thing that helped me on the hard days was I would literally make a list, and it's somewhere over there. I just filed it yesterday. I just saw it, and I was like, oh, I need to remember this. When I was tempted to complain or be upset or grumpy, which is all, it's okay to feel all those feelings. Like, yes, we need to feel them, but don't just stay in those feelings. So I literally would make a list of complaints, and I would get very specific, and I kind of saw it as like, kind of complaining to God. Like, God, this is really hard. Like, I cannot believe I have to have another surgery and another surgery, and then I have to wear this stupid thing and this wound vac and all these things, and then I have these restrictions and I can't do this. And I'd write it all down. Or sleeping is really hard. I'd have to sleep on my back for 6 weeks. I have a broken tailbone, told you guys about in the beginning. And so, I mean, I would complain about these things, but then I would write a praise on the other side that is directly affected to the, does that make sense? It's directly connected to the complaint. So, if I wrote broken tailbone, I'd say, well, the praise is at least I have a memory of 6 years ago having fun with my kids when I made a homemade slide down the basement stairs and broke my tailbone, and we got a video, so that's kind of fun. Plus, I'm going to be thankful that there's things like, these donuts you can sit on. And I mean, it sounds silly, but it like flips the script. And so I had to do that in so many ways, and I still do. So the discipline of gratitude, we know that science proves, right, that people actually recover better. They have a better quality of life when you choose to be grateful. And so I think that's a really important discipline, and God's word tells us about it. Rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances. That's his will for us, it says in 1 Thessalonians. So, yeah.
I have to tell you, Molly, you remind me so much of like the faith of the child. And it is beautiful because just everything that you have shared. I will share when Liam needed his open heart surgery in 2023. It was unexpected. Okay. It wasn't unexpected. It was just much sooner than we were anticipating him needing another surgery. And I remember crying, like could not stop crying. And Liam looked at me one day. I'm going to try and do this without tears in my eyes. But he looked at me and he was like, Mom, God's got me and the doctor's got me. Like, it's fine. Yeah. And I was like, okay, you're right. And that's all that I keep hearing from you this whole time is just that faith of a child, of that God has you in every scenario of life, no matter what journey you've been on, whether it was the single 20-year-old in congenital heart disease in your 30s and giving birth to children and open heart surgeries, like you can just see that faith. And so I hope today that anyone that is watching is maybe finding that inner child faith that I feel like we lose. We do. And I wish so badly that I didn't struggle in that way, but you have been an inspiration to find that inner child faith and to know that God has us on our journeys in every way of life.
That so much. And I think it's so important to remind ourselves and all the listeners that it's okay to have hard days. Like, and it's okay, like that, like read the Psalms, like David brought me a lot of comfort because, he's crying out to God, like, why, how long will this last? It's a different situation than what we're going through. But I think in the middle of all of that, even when you're crying and you're devastated and distraught, whether you're a caregiver or going through it, you don't even have to be smiling for people just to know that you have this inner hope that doesn't disappoint, an anchor for our soul, that we know that we know that we know that when this life is over, we're going to have eternity with Jesus. So, yeah, I'm so honored to talk with you guys. And I just want to say a shout out to anyone in Minnesota that's anywhere close. God has called me. I'm so excited. I need to talk to you guys separately because you're like already doing this in your life. But God has called me and my husband as a Whatever You Do Ministries opportunity to create an evening that's going to be called Medical Journeys for Jesus. April 27th. It's on the calendar. It's at our home church, Plymouth Covenant Church in Plymouth, Minnesota. And it's going to be like a pep rally night for people going through medical journeys or people who have jobs in the medical field who love
Yeah.
Jesus and want to use their story for his glory. So God's working out all the pieces, but it's going to be a night of like commissioning people who are going through tough stuff through prayer, sharing testimonies of how they've shared the gospel in waiting rooms and stuff. And so I don't know what God's doing, but I think it's not a coincidence that we got connected because you guys are encouraging me, and I want to continue to encourage people in their medical journeys to use them for Jesus and for the gospel.
I love that so much, Molly, and I cannot wait to hear more about that and share about April 27th. And hopefully, that's just the first
Yeah.
of many that you guys get to host. So, to end today, thank you so much, Molly, for being with us and just sharing your journey. And as Dawn always says after our church services, go out and be the good in the world. Thank you so
Amen.
much.
You're welcome. Thanks, ladies.